the Bremont stuff, for the most part, was never bad, right? It was good. It was nice designs. This stuff is a very sharp contrast. So by comparison, I think the problem is the enthusiasts are like, wait a minute. Bremont was an enthusiast brand for all this time. We just didn't appreciate it for it. Now that it's going mainstream, we're like, we want that enthusiast brand that we actually liked, but was easy to pick on. I think the thing that amazes me is actually how harsh some people are. There's plenty of other mediocre watches that come out, but they want this watch to be utterly perfect. And I'm sure that Bremont is like, oh my God, like our prices go up, you don't like it. Our prices go down, you don't like it. We make our own movements, you don't like it. We use other people's movements, you don't like it. Like, what do you want from us people? And there's got to be something like that.
Greetings and welcome to this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly. We had a bit of a holiday last week for various reasons, none of which really matter to telling anybody, but we had a holiday, so we're back, nice and revived, just to be let down by all the releases, probably from all the brands this week. We will find out. But it's Olympic week, which means all things Omega, which we'll get to eventually. But let's talk about sport first of all. Gentlemen, have you enjoyed anything in particular with the Olympics?
I've not enjoyed anything.
Trying to figure out how to watch it is a sport
David's
unto
in that
itself.
kind of mood. That's the kind of mood that David's bringing to the show this morning. I enjoyed.
It's gonna be a long day.
Can you not? Is it not readily available on television in Ariel in the States?
It's if you don't have traditional cable, which apparently most Americans don't now, you have to subscribe to the Peacock app. Yes, the Peacock app. To watch the Olympics, you need some Peacock in your life.
How French? Exactly. If it was the UK, it would be Swan.
Yeah, they're so our network NBC, aka Peacock, has the rights to it, and on their YouTube channel, there's just little snippets. So I don't know, maybe someone out there knows and can tell us, or I will figure it out. But I desperately want to see more and more of that Omega branding, and they're making it so hard.
Ripley, anything you particularly enjoyed sporting wise so far?
Well, I've watched all of it unintentionally at restaurants while passing. Handball, so interesting, so different than the handball we played as kids where it uses a wall, that thing where they're it's like soccer with the sticky ball that they throw in the goal. What else has been good? Oh, archery, where I've never put my nose on the string when I was doing it as a boy, but apparently I've noticed the more nose contact with the string and the chin and the lips, and some of them have a mark from it on
a
their
little
chin.
mark.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game, that joke you used to play whereby you'd etch pencil on the edge of a coin and then get folk to draw it on their faces? No, never done that stunt. It's a bit like that. Get a little line right the way down, and some of them are slightly off center, and you go, I think I know what your problem is. I think your nose line's slightly off center.
But most importantly, though, I have not seen any sport that has actually relied on Omega's elite timekeeping equipment, so that has been disappointing.
There was actually an extremely close swimming race. I think it was the first was the first won by a couple of hundreds or maybe even less, and then second and third came in a tie. So that's timing right there.
Yeah, they had to have they ordered 2 silver medals. In fact, if you tie in swimming, cool. Yes, no bronze. They used the bronze for the Omega watch that we'll talk about shortly. Yes, so. It does seem that there's quite a lot of Apple watches on display. I do wonder the extent to which Omega, or indeed Apple, have missed a trick, seen as the pretty much watch that everybody's wearing that I've seen so far, all through the gymnastics and the equestrian. Although in the equestrian events, they do wear special, enormous digital watches on their hands with huge stopwatches on them. So
okay, I have to ask a question, Rick.
Yeah.
Years ago, I predicted that the proliferation of smartwatches would make it that anytime someone was wearing a watch that wasn't a smartwatch, you'd be like, oh, what's that? And so it's you expect someone to wear an Apple Watch, and the moment they don't, it doesn't matter what it is, you're like, what's that? So the theory was that we'd spend more time looking at wrists because we'd be interested in those people not wearing the smartwatch.
Well, I'm seeing Ripley's armband, Hublot's sweatband. I don't know if
yes.
Yeah, there we go. On display again.
Yeah, plenty of brand swag on and about me today.
I don't think we saw any athletes playing with watches on. I know in professional sports that's big, but I think the Olympics, like, it's a little bit too big of a deal.
I don't know. I think some of the ambassadors might. I think Noah Lyles, the American sprinter, I'm pretty sure he's an Omega ambassador. And I think that Terra Ultralight, the super light one on the Velcro strap, he may wear that during races.
I mean, but isn't that, you have to be paid a lot of money. It'd have to be more money than the medal is worth.
Maybe
you don't want to have anything that like takes it away.
Yeah, maybe it's just in I think a golfer wears a Richard Mille. I see her in commercials.
Okay. Well, that doesn't. Yeah. That's not like a race. I'm just saying any race. I'm pretty sure, unless it's like a skiing thing, you're not wearing a watch.
Well, we need to change that. I think a really big burly dive watch company needs to just sponsor an elite sprinter, and that can be testament to their
take it further. Make a sport where you have to wear a watch. There's like rules of like the equipment. You have to wear a watch. It has to be a certain weight. You have to wear like a 200-gram watch or something.
Maybe U-boat could sponsor the worst swimmers. I mean, they would come last with a U-boat on anyway.
One on each wrist in the butterfly.
Just wear this 55 millimeter, Submariner steel, whatever nonsense, and then just come stone dead last, and then you can blame the watch. And I guess that's publicity, right?
Wow, you're writing the world's best advertisement there, aren't you?
Come last and be proud.
Yeah, maybe.
So what have we designed in my absence?
A sport in the Olympics where you have to wear a watch.
Oh.
Of a certain weight, like F1, there's minimum weight requirements and some pretty strict technical things.
You're just picking on George Russell, aren't you? George. If only you'd worn a Rolex Deep Sea on your wrist, you wouldn't have been underweight. You would still have won. You just needed to wear the watch. You see, that's the plan. You just snuck off.
Breitling never had this problem.
One of those the solid gold G-Shock. That's what he needed. He needed the solid gold G-Shock, and he would have been fine. He'd still have won. So, are we thinking that this watch is being used as a when they weigh horses differently for races so that they all weigh the same, or they handicap them? Is this what we're talking about?
You know what? We're going to leave it up to you. We just want to have watches that are forced to be on wrists. People have to do it. Yes.
Oh, good stuff.
The wristwatch shackle.
Wristwatch shackle. Well, let's talk about a brand. I wouldn't say it's been shackling for 100 years, but it's 100 years old. Ripley, celebrating 100 years of citizen watches at the Essence of Time exhibition in New York. I'm assuming you wrote this article because you went to the Essence of Time in New York, but maybe you didn't.
Yes.
Tell us all about it.
Went there. It was really cool. Citizen's history does start a bit earlier in 1918, but the actual first Citizen branded watch, it was a pocket watch, came in 1924. So to celebrate 100 years of like Citizen watches, the brand did this exhibition in New York City. It only was on for part of a week. So it was Monday through Thursday. So by the time you're hearing this, it's no longer open. Although the brand does have plans to convert the third floor of its flagship New York boutique, where it also shares with Accutron and Bulova and Frederic Constantinopina, into some type of museum space. So hopefully people will get to check it out. But for the exhibit itself, they had 100 different watches plucked from Citizen's 6,000 plus piece archives over the last 100 years. Everything from the first Citizen pocket watch to the weird digital gadget watches that seem more like something Casio would have produced in the 80s. A lot of the big name ones like the first solar cell watch were there, some of the key ProMaster models. But it was really interesting to see the diverse assortment of models and how while the brand does have a very kind of concise message as far as what it wants to do and how it wants to provide watches for everybody, it's clear that there is no singular design that the brand has felt like it has needed to stick through over the years, and it's always seems to have made other types of pieces for various types of purposes, or as new technologies become available, ways and watches that implement it. So it was really cool to check out. The only thing I wish was that it was open for longer so that others in the New York City area could go check it out for themselves.
When you scroll through this article, it does remind you just how nuts a company Citizen is in the range of stuff that they've produced over the years. I mean, one of my favourite watches, which I've still got one of, that I had as a teenager, was the robot face Citizen watch,
Oh
And
yeah.
then you look at some of this stuff and you go, Citizen really do just produce a jumble sale of different types of watch. And some of these are cracking. Which of the ones you saw are you like, yeah, bring that back, bring that back?
I don't know. So for me, it's not so much bringing that back, because the thing I admire most about Citizen is that I think it's one of the few brands that really pushes the envelope of, you know, traditional analog watches in a functional manner, you know. And I mean, obviously, complex mechanical movements are interesting for enthusiasts, but they're really just creating a new answer to an age-old problem, and they're not really pushing the boundaries in the same way that a light powered movement capable of 1 second a year in 365 days plus of autonomy is, or some of the weird gadget watches with, just like Casio, they were really kind of at the forefront of what you could do with a watch. So I don't know, for me it's not so much bring it back as like maybe look to some of the older designs. But I think a big theme of the brand is to just kind of always keep pushing forward. So while they do retro some models, it's never an exact one-to-one. They're always trying to do something to make it better for the customers.
Gentlemen, David, Ariel, favorite Citizen watches down through the years?
It's hard to say. I mean, like Ripley said, they have 6,000 watches in their archives. I think a lot of the cool ones are the concepts they tried to do that didn't really work out. Either they were never commercially viable and that they were too expensive, or technically they barely got it. But especially during the 80s and 90s, you know, and we went through the same exercise with Casio. It's like, is there a gadget? Let's make it small enough to be worn on the wrist. And for me, the smartwatch industry is a direct result of that in a lot of ways, but also the relatively boring original designs of many smartwatches. We're talking about the Apple Watch, which is a cool watch, but it's not a sexy design per se. I think can look at this period of what the Japanese were doing in the 80s and be inspired by it for sort of fun, high-tech watches today. So really what they were doing that era is sort of my favorite. They were really, really avant-garde by today's standards, and they were taking risks. It was like consumers will put up with weird in order to be able to wear that feature on their wrist. And that's sort of an era I miss.
Yeah, I liked seeing the range, but and while some things are clearly never going to be brought back, because just like in the Casio video you and I did, there's some things that are very much just so of the era. It's like, hey, we can make a miniaturized temperature sensor. Let's put it into a watch. While other, you know, one of the things they had was this chart on the wall where it had 100 models representing 100 years, and it had all these lines intersecting the different models where you could sort of track the lineage of a concept or a design flourish. And while some of these pieces where you look at it and it's like, it's super crazy, but it pushed the design envelope, you know, and something that they should look to for more of a smartwatch, Citizen actually does kind of implement certain aspects of the design. So while the functionality might have been dropped, that case profile that was reduced in the introduced in the gadget era becomes something that they then used for a kind of parallel series later on. But it's really interesting with 100 years and that diverse of a catalog. There's no way not to have cool stuff to talk about.
When you spoke with some of the team members from Citizen, did you get any sense of what they're working on next, or what they want, you know, to let people pay attention to that's coming later? Oftentimes they have these exhibits because they're revisiting a concept, you know, for future collection. I just want to know if you got any insight from those team members you spoke to.
Not specifically. This was very much a retrospective. They have their book published by Asseline that is coming out, or that's out, that kind of chronicles, you know, it's titled Citizen, the Essence of Time, and kind of chronicles their history and some of the important milestones. You know, this was very much looking back. I did ask them what, you know, a couple different people, what they thought were going to be the next technologies and innovations that were going to be most important to watchmaking, because that's always kind of been where their focus is. And they told me, while they do have some stuff, you know, secret stuff in the works that's going to be a big game changer to, you know, try to bring the brand to the next level, the core of the development is now incremental and just consistent perfection of those core technologies they already have. So, you know, better forms of super titanium, different ways of working with it, more, you know, more efficient eco drive movements, more accurate eco drive movements, you know, largely more of the same, but just sort of moving all of the needles forward kind of in lockstep to just make better timepieces.
Cool. Well, hopefully that was my last interruption. But when the man comes to fix your telehandler, you just have to let him fix your telehandler. What's life without a working telehandler?
To fix your what?
Sorry,
Did
what?
you just mention your unmentionables?
You don't know what's it called? It'll be called something different in the States.
It's definitely called something different. I just don't know what it might be called.
No, a telehandler is like a 4-wheel drive machine that's got a set of forks on the end of it, and it booms out like 14 meters so as you can lift stuff really high. It's quite
You
vital.
mean a forklift?
Lift?
Well, no, because it's not a forklift. A forklift's only lift up the way. This lifts up the way and out the way. So
I think a forklift can do that.
Yeah, it's an advanced forklift plus.
Yeah.
What's it called? A telehandler.
Grand forklift.
That's right.
I love how the people in England are now being like, fork in the name? Come on. Why use a word like fork?
Right. Okay. Enough of that. Let's celebrate our article of the week as judged by the number of comments it gets. And yes, we are back here again. Hands-on Bremont Terra Nova 38 field watch. Ripley, you reviewed this hands-on, forgetting about all the chat, all the criticism, all the everything. Would you wear this watch? 1, if it was given to you, and 2, would you ever consider buying it and wearing it?
I think I'd wear most things if they were given to me. Maybe not every day, but like, yeah, if any brands want to test that out, feel free to send me something.
Test that,
yeah.
baby.
I mean, he'll wear it on the show.
Yeah. All of it. Yes. So much of it.
All of it at the same time.
Yeah. I'll drink out of it. I'll wear it.
Who are we repping today, Ripley?
Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. We were recently at the Notice Intersect Watch show over the weekend, where we saw Formex on the shirt with the glowing shirt, along with Bayer on the hat. We did not see Hublot or I guess is this Bomberg with the hand beads just stepping it up here? But we did see RZE, and this is actually some cologne. So because it's so sweaty in Los Angeles, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some of this solid cologne on so I don't smell myself out over here.
Welcome to Smell-O-Vision on the podcast. Drinking out of Oris. The cup of Oris. Oh, dear me. Well, good stuff. Oh, there you go. There's a teddy bear. Anyone else wearing anything that's not just a wristwatch with a brand on it? No?
I'm wearing Ariel? One of our aBlogtoWatch shirts.
Oh, there you go. You see, Ariel gets points for repping the brand, for trying to make some money at the same time. You're just a clothes horse, Ripley.
We sell this stuff.
I don't have any of these things. I would love to wear one. I don't have any.
You know, I
Ariel
have a few
has a huge inventory of them.
I do have some. Come over.
I think, Ariel, you just need to send out these. It needs to be like the uniform for the show. Come on.
All right.
Exactly.
Let's
get back to Bremont. So Ripley, you'd wear it for nothing, but would you consider buying it?
So it is the most affordable Bremont model, but it still feels quite expensive for what it is. You know, with old Bremont, it was expensive, but you got a very complex case, with the triptych style. It's a pretty stripped back watch. Now, it doesn't deserve the kicking that it's received. People are absolutely offended by it, and it's really not that bad. It's pretty solid. It's kind of a weird comparison, but it feels like a tooly version of a Cartier Santos because the bracelet just has a butterfly clasp and it's pretty thin, and the case is kind of rectangular, kind of wears like a Santos mid, but obviously the dial is very different. I mean, there's a lot of things it does right. There's a lot of things it could do differently that I would prefer. But it still feels a bit expensive for what it is. Again, not bad, not a bad watch in a vacuum with no point of reference for Bremont and no other options within the industry. It's pretty well finished. You know, it's kind of cool. There's a couple things you can nitpick with the design, but it still feels expensive for what it is, which has always been true about Bremont. Granted, it's at a lower price point, but I had an easier time justifying the older Bremont models that were more expensive, but you got some things that you couldn't really get elsewhere, like the triptych case. Now it just sort of feels a bit expensive for like a super Hamilton, if you will. But at a price point of almost $3,000 or just over on the bracelet, it kind of puts it into a territory where you're going up head to head against like Tudor and the like. So it's
is it making us assess how good old Bremont was? Is that actually the biggest problem? Which is that actually you look back at what it's replacing, you go, actually, you know what? That triptych case was really quite good, and we maybe didn't appreciate just how good and how actually slightly different and differentiating it was. Whereas this does seem like it's made up of the greatest hits of a number of other brands put into it. So if it had just been a new British brand coming along called something else.
This is a very common phenomenon where a brand has sometimes it's like a mediocre model that just doesn't do that well, even though the brand likes it, and they take it off the market. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, wait a minute, that's gone. No, we want that. And that's like a common situation that happens. During the pandemic, a lot of people realized that this idea of scarcity or that you can't get it stimulates purchases. And for whatever reason, that's a very strong force in watch collecting. Cartier's figured that out a long time ago, where like models that do well, they'll just stop for a bunch of years and be like, oh yeah, we'll let demand generate up again and then come out with it again. So there's probably something to what you said. The Bremont stuff, for the most part, was never bad, right? It was good. It was nice designs. This stuff is a very sharp contrast. So by comparison, I think the problem is the enthusiasts are like, wait a minute. Bremont like was an enthusiast brand for all this time. We just didn't appreciate it for it. Now that it's going mainstream, we're like, we want that enthusiast brand that we actually liked, but was easy to pick on. I think the thing that amazes me is actually how harsh some people are. There's plenty of other mediocre watches that come out, but they want this watch to be like utterly perfect. And I'm sure that Bremont is like, oh my God, like like our prices go up, you don't like it. Our prices go down, you don't like it. We make our own movements, you don't like it. We use other people's movements, you don't like it. Like, what do you want from us people? And there's got to be something like that.
And just be quiet for once. Yeah, it I don't know. Are they just? Do they just appear to be a brand that geeks, if you like, now just love to hate for no particularly good reason? Or is there a more fundamental problem here? I mean, I imagine that these are probably selling actually quite well to your family that walk through a jewelry store, a multi-brand store, see these. They're priced similar to all the other, low range expensive watches. They're quite striking for reasons which maybe we don't approve, but that probably draw the eye from someone who the only brand they know is probably Rolex and Breitling, but they look at them and both of them are well out of their budget if you're in the kind of £2,500 to £3,500, £4,000 mark. And they are, especially in the UK, they are almost as ubiquitous as Tag in terms of where you can buy them. So do we think in the background this is actually going to do quite well while we're all slagging it off? David?
Oh well, it's madness. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think that Bremont became this brand where novice enthusiasts, especially at the dawn of comment sections and social media and whatever, it was this one-upmanship among certain commenters to say like, look how well I can criticize stuff, and then it just stuck around. It's like, oh well, this is the thing that everyone's kicking, let me kick it too, just so that I can be part of this community. I think it's a whole lot more about the community and certain dynamics that people have than the watches themselves. Yes, it's imperfect, but if you look at the overwhelming majority of the offerings from Richemont Group or Swatch Group, most of them are terrible in all kinds of fantastic ways. And yet people are like, oh, I hate Bremont for doing all of these. But if you look at what they are doing, you will discover that they have the same variety of, we are doing in-house now, we are doing supplied movements now, we are doing partnerships now, we are doing vintage now, we are doing dive watches now, we're doing pilots watches now. It's like everything is like up in the air at the same time. Bremont has been doing it the same way, and they get a whole lot more of a kicking than others do, and I think it's just disproportionate. And for the enthusiasts to have the bare cheek to suggest that, the old one was actually good, it's just I would just drop the biggest F-bomb on them if I were Bremont. It's like you don't get to say that. No.
Start publishing the articles in an ironic sense of all the people who are saying we love the old one when they wrote about the fact that they didn't love the old one.
You don't get to say that.
I do love the triptych case. The Bremont Boeing, one of my favorite watches. I mean, if we look at this picture, if you're watching this either on the aBlogtoWatch YouTube channel, or if you're watching live on aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live, there's a picture up that Ripley's taken. If we were just to look at this in its constituent parts, I'm curious as to whether we can turn this from a dog's dinner into something we would appreciate more just by looking at the component parts and trying to view them from the point of view of someone that knows, that's just wants to buy a watch. I mean, the case isn't the cushion case, that kind of what was the brand? It'll come back to me in a minute. It's quite attractive. The numerals are actually quite attractive, I think. Then I'm a Panerai fan, so it's got that kind of vibe. People do like faux patina. So, from a pure design perspective, have they actually just pulled together the fashionable hits of the day to try and create their entry level watch? Or am I trying too hard to justify this watch's existence?
No, you're explaining what it is. I think that the challenge is that the company has tried to paint itself as an enthusiast-focused brand for a long time now. And now they're like, yeah, we're doing some of that, but we also want to sort of sell to mainstream folks that want a look. And they're selling a look, and the company at this point has enough heritage to say, like, we're a watchmaker, we've done enough watchmaking things. You can have disagreements with Davide over whether or not that was the direction that the market should have. I ultimately don't know, but it's not a bad concept. It's a money making concept. I mean, he wants to have standard watches sell in a authorized dealer environment, which stuff like this will. And then he wants to have a couple of watches, maybe 10% of the collection, which is just like cool, crazy stuff for people like us. But what Bremont learned the hard way is if you just try to sell to enthusiasts, it's really, really hard. So a lot of their business was to like military, and a lot of their volume was to stuff like that. But I think a really good model for any brand is most of the watches are good enough luxury watches for the mainstream, and they make a couple of crazy things that are spec'd for, the discerning nerds like us.
Good stuff. Well, a couple of crazy. Jean Richard, that was the brand I was thinking of. It's just popped back into my head.
I have one of those.
Kind of Jean Richard case. This would be what we would call a sour cream watch, which is, how you were talking about brands producing things that folk that they withdraw, and then folk go, we love it, please produce that, and then it kind of, they full withdraw it from the market only to put it back in once everybody complains that it no longer exists. So maybe the triptych case will make a return as everybody demands it, like they do for sour cream.
Well, did it formally leave, or did they just introduce these new models that don't have it as a lower price point? Which, I think it's important to remember that this Terra Nova is the brand's least expensive watch. It's being disseminated by a bunch of hardcore enthusiasts, but I think the average person who is looking to buy an entry-level Bremont, not like an entry-level, but, like who just sees it and is like, oh, that's pretty good, and it costs a little bit less than that tag. They're not going to notice the little things like, oh, the color of the Lumicast on the numerals doesn't match the Super Lomanova on the hands, and the center, because it doesn't have a running second. You can see the little the most average people aren't going to know that. You can sit someone down and try to explain it to them and be like, this is why Bremont made a misstep. And I know the average person's just going to kind of look at you and be like, oh, I guess, So I think that's a little bit of the disconnect. I think a lot of the people who are the harshest to it are just categorically not the intended buyer for this watch.
This is Ariel Adams from aBlogtoWatch with a message from Zodiac Swiss-made watches. Did you know that the historic Zodiac brand just released an in-house GMT mechanical movement? Through their in-group partner STP, that stands for Swiss Technology Production, Zodiac recently introduced an upgraded Super Seawolf GMT watch with their new caliber STP 7-20 automatic movement. Built in Switzerland, the modern STP 7-20 automatic movement features the local time, a second time zone displayed via a 24-hour GMT hand, and the date. Special features include the use of a silicone escapement for increased performance and environmental resistance. The bold and architectural styling of the Super Seawolf GMT product itself harkens back to Zodiac's history during the 1950s and 1960s as a premier manufacturer of sports activity and professional use wristwatches. Updated for modern expectations featuring world-class performance and durability, the latest Super Seawolf GMT watches come in a few styles and has a 40mm wide steel case. One of the most popular new Super Seawolf GMT automatic watches for 2024 has a stunning pink and white two-tone bezel matched to a legible black dial. Don't miss the iconic rotating bezel design, interchangeable straps, and strong value proposition Zodiac offers for a watch with this feature set. Zodiac Super Seawolf GMT watches start at just under $2,000. To see them for yourself, visit the Zodiac website at zodiacwatches.com.
Let's very quickly look at mad product release of the week, and we're going to go to Everest watch bands. I think they make straps, but this is the best article on this. Rolex new wrist measurement machine is interesting. Has anybody seen this? You followed this story at all? So Rolex have introduced a digital wrist measuring machine. I had to look as to whether this is actually an April Fool's joke. I'm just wondering if this takes the biscuit of the most pointless device as opposed to using, a tape measure like they used to. I think the idea is that it allows Rolex not to give you all of the extra links that you would normally get included when you buy your watch, because they can actually supply the watch with the exact number of links you need, which just makes it more difficult to sell if you're trying to sell it to somebody that's got
here's why this exists. So let's explain how it works. You stick your hand through it, and then it projects a rounded light circle on it so that you can see how large your... It's because they don't have any watches, so now you have to it's basically you can use your imagination to see what it would actually look like on your hand.
That's right. We can't let you try on the watch, but what we can do is we can show you what kind of shape it would make on your wrist if you wanted it.
I can say this: if you just use a tape measure and you get that for circumference, it still doesn't really help you, because the size of a bracelet is also related to shape. So what I think this does is it combines the circumference with the shape and allows someone to quickly and efficiently size it right away. Because what you have is I have to take a link out, I have to put in a link. Yes, this is a very expensive solution to a not very expensive problem, but it's part of that whiz bang, part of the experience. Look, you're looking at our beautiful flower vase and you're using our machine. It doesn't replace anything that can be done manually, and it doesn't. I hope it doesn't mean that Rolex is, holding back spare links or something like that. But that's my presumption. It's again just a whiz bang kind of thing.
If you have the... Go on, Ripley.
I was going to say, I think it's, technologically impressive. It's something you'd be like, they have this thing that measures your wrist, and whether or not we need it, it's something to talk about. And the other thing is, let's be real, not every retailer has the sample model. So it's what would the deep sea challenge look on my wrist? Chances are your retailer doesn't have a display model. So this thing will project that behemoth on you. So, it's gadgets to make the retail experience more of a thing, because buying a Rolex at retail has literally become the strangest transactional experience, where you text your retailer hey, I want this, and then they're okay, I'll noted. And then at some point they hit you up, but like you're not going in and shopping, you know, and they're trying to give the customers something to do. So when the average person walks in off the street, maybe they won't be able to sell them the watch they want on that same day, but at least they can do something there other than walk in, see 6 display models and then go, oh, okay, well, thank you. You know, can I have a cappuccino? You know,
do you think they'll let anybody use it? Like if you need proof of identity and order history to actually get into the boutique in the first place.
Well,
do you think
they don't ever do that?
You need to prove to be able to use the machine.
I mean, I'm gonna I guess I will go with my Rolex warranty card and my Datejust and say, hey, I hear you got some new equipment. I wanna check this out, and then just see I'll see if when they sized it for me, if I bought it, if the machine agrees with what was done at the time, and if it's not, I want to try it out the other way. I want to see the machines take and see if it's any better.
Well, do you think you can now blame Rolex for mismeasuring your wrist?
What is this a warranty claim? Is this a warranty?
Well, yeah. So what you want to do is you want to go in because you're not going to be able to actually take delivery of the thing that day. They're just measuring. So you go in and you measure at 6.5 inch wrist, and then you spend the next 6 months bulking up on the protein. And then you turn back up with an 8.5 inch wrist, or just send in somebody else because they're not going to remember who you are. And say, well, wait a minute, what happened to the machine? You measured this. It's I want a discount to take it away with the 3 less links in it because it's not measured to my size to turn up with the champagne and the stuff.
I can't imagine they're taking the links. I think this is really just more of a tool to just help people figure out what size they need. And, you know, I can't imagine they need my little giblets of stainless steel.
I would like 2 people to go into it. Sorry?
I just wonder what else you can stick into it.
It was only going to take so much time for somebody to suggest that.
What size what watch it recommends for you?
It's ridiculous. Honestly, I think maybe it's that so that it's so that they can save some time and back and forth on adjusting the bracelet because that's probably one of the more ungainly moments on obtaining a watch at an AD. So they have to like take a link out and go back, take 2 more out, and then put one back in, and then all of this nonsense. So
it just means they don't need to train the AD staff on how to size the bracelets because they can get the factory to do it.
They never. It's so rare that it happens that they know.
Yeah.
I have skinny wrists, and they are always like, "Oh, we take 2 out." I'm like, "Take 4." Oh, well, we just took 2. Well, they come and just this loose, basically. I'm like, well.
Right. Well, before we play Hit Miss, maybe let's just quickly look at the business world of watches. There's been a bit of a reshuffle. This is from WatchPro, LVMH. Follows Richemont. Everyone seems to be moving the deck chairs on what is increasingly an industry which is not without its financial challenges. Julian Tourneur has been moved from TAG to Hublot, which I think is the biggest news, seeing as it was only at TAG for 6 months. If you're Julian Tourneur, are you sitting there going, yep, I'll take that? Or are you going, wait a minute, I was only just getting my feet under the desk. Why are you moving me? Is Hublot a move sideways, a move up the ways? Is Julian a better fit for Hublot than TAG? What about what else has happened within the LVMH brands? Ariel, you must have an opinion.
This is a tough one. I mean, these are all people that I know, and I've been to enough of these events to see a little bit of the behind the scenes, a matter. You have the Arnault family and LVMH board and shareholders and all that, and you have these brands that are, they're trying to move upward stably. They're not expecting crazy performance, but they want to see that these brands sort of know what they're doing, and it's been a challenge over the last couple of years because the market keeps changing, leadership keeps changing, creativity moves in and out, and there's a real problem here that they seem to think that they can keep resolving with the new CEO. I mean, I think it's like 8 or maybe 9 CEOs that have been at the helm of TAG Heuer since I've been in the watch industry. Like that is quite a bit. It does look odd that someone like Julian would go from a bigger brand to a smaller brand, though I don't think it's a demotion at all. I think that amongst the group of people that are there, they see Julian as being the best fit for Hublot. Ricardo was sort of a vestige of the Biver era, and he was sort of like the last main one there. And there's nothing wrong with him at all, but I don't know how well he meshed with the way of doing business that the Arnauds prefer and sort of their thing. And Julian is one of their sort of inside guys, and he does things their way, and he reports to them, and he also has a charismatic personality, and so they think that's what Hublot needs. Is it needs someone that can talk and joke around and have fun. I think Hublot's still missing a creative element. He's not a designer; he's a manager, so they still need to resolve that. It leaves open the question of who's running these brands. Is it the CEO? Is it the Arnauds? Is it something like that? I just need to sort of watch and see what happens. I want to stress, I don't think that this is like, Julian, you've done something wrong, you're getting a downgrade. I think they're like, Julian, we need your help. I mean, he might even be getting more money, right, running Hublot, even though it's lower
Hublot's going to be more fun.
I'd rather work for Hublot. Yeah, if you could let me choose which one of the companies I'd want to head up, it's like without a question. Like, oh yeah, look, Tag's got a great history, huge brand, massive exposure, F1, whatever. But I mean, Colored Sapphire, Saxum, like Murakami. Oh yeah, let's do it. To me, it's not as big of a brand, but I think there's less rigidity there. Hublot does crazy stuff. They're not afraid to like do weird collabs, colorful things, kind of oddly strange, irreverent pieces. Whereas Tag, there's so much more with like the motorsports history. And, there is that the people who love Tag because of their vintage catalog. And, Hublot is a, definitively modern brand. They weren't really around until, the 80s. So like, it's really just, it's just a different brand. I don't think it's a downgrade in any capacity.
Yeah. Tag can be surprisingly stuffy to deal with, in my experience, in terms of just thinking that they've got all this history behind them and it's, bow at the knee of Tag Heuer for various reasons. Whereas Hublot, completely agree, just feels like it's going to be the funner place to work. So yeah, no, I think it's a good move for Julian. I think it much more suits his personality and what he's into. Right, let's see who is here to be let in. It should be Guy and Alon. So let's let them in and welcome them both. Good morning, gentlemen. We are live, remember, on aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live. So here we go. How are you both? Guy, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Not bad, not bad. Alon, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Very well.
Excellent. You're both looking resplendent in white today. Clearly there was some consultation beforehand. Right, as we get into Hitmas, maybe let's do what we normally do and go round the room. So first up on my screen with the magnificent wall, repping about a dozen brands in one go, is the magnificent Ripley Sellers. Where are you and what are you wearing?
Well, I'm wearing quite a lot of swag,
Everything.
But the watch is the Notice Contrail GMT.
Very nice indeed. David, dare we ask what is being worn on the wrist and where you are?
Yes, I'm in Budapest and I'm wearing the Karlev Bucherer Heritage Bicompax Annual in two-tone configuration, rose gold and steel. Very cool.
Very nice. We've done it about 3 weeks in a row. You've been wearing a watch when we've done this show.
Feels strange.
Some sort of new record. You sure
shaming works, Rick? That's the point.
It hurts, but it works.
Ariel, good morning. Where are you and what are you wearing?
Good morning. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm wearing no, it's not a Breitling, it's a Zinn. It's Zinn's Navitimer. It's not called the Navitimer, but it is the Zinn Navitimer. Mm-hmm. This is the latest version, which has really good lume. And I will be writing about this Zinn Navitimer because cool. I just think it's really funny that there's a Zinn Navitimer, which is not called the Navitimer.
Do you feel different wearing the Zinn version than wearing the Breitling? Because it would be the most obvious example of what a brand name does to how it makes you feel about a thing. Two watches that are ostensibly exactly the same, both made by great brands.
Yeah.
So it's not like one's an homage to the other or some sort of rip-off. There's a story behind it. But do you actually feel different wearing a Zin to wearing a Breitling?
Yeah, because I feel like everyone thinks it's a Breitling, but I'm like, hey, it was half the price, but not half the quality.
Right. Okay. So you're viewing it as an economics exercise. What about
It's a weird watch. It's one of the only like stock retro style watches that Zin makes. It's like this modern Toolwatch brand, but then all of a sudden they have stuff like this, which is like full on homage.
I mean, Ripley, our Breitling man. Ripley, do you think you would feel the same wearing a Zin as wearing your Breitling? Do you think you'd feel less of a Breitling man?
Yes, definitively. I absolutely. I love Zin. I think they make fantastic watches, but something just up inside you swells when you wear a Breitling, and I mean that's why they're an aviation brand. They're it's just that's where you go. The head goes up to the clouds. So I would feel differently. I would feel good only spending about half the price, but come on, Breitling.
Good stuff. Guy, where are you? What are you wearing? Go on, surprise us. Be wearing a Casio.
I am on the sunny south coast. I have the Gotham's Vigilante today.
Very
It's
nice.
on sale today. I've got 24-hour drop today.
It's okay because this.
But it won't be when this comes
Thursday,
out,
so it'll make no difference. Excellent. Alon, where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I'm actually wearing my own Sherpa OPS TRTS that came from Cali, as Sean reviewed it on aBlogtoWatch. So I'm very happy it's back on the wrist.
Very good.
Are you going to climb the mountain?
Did I climb the mountain?
Are you going to climb the mountain now?
Oh, I think I'll be a Sherpa and carry the stuff.
Oh, you want to carry the stuff
at the base camp.
You still have to go up to the mountain. You realize that, right?
I prefer to come hiking with you in Cali, Ariel, if you don't mind.
You're invited. I just joke about that watch because it's like, with the Polo watch, you get to hang out on a horse. With this one, it's like all the joys of carrying equipment into a deadly place.
Yeah. Hence the orange hand to warn you.
Yeah. Do not go on this trip. Warning.
Well, we'll start with a watch that also has some orange on it. So first up is the Unimatic Modello Quattro Toolwatch UT4 GMT. I was specifically requested by one of our guests on the show to look at this watch, but Ripley, you got hands-on with this. It's quite a highly commented on article this week. What did you make of it?
It's cool. So Unimatic has done a bunch of different stuff, but this Toolwatch collection spans 4 models. There's a time only and a kind of diver style, and each one is available in either a GMT format or a 3-hand. But this is only their second collection, and the whole point of this one is just maximum durability. So you obviously have ample water resistance as you do with the standard models, but they use quartz movements and this special shock absorber ring that surrounds the back and sides, and then also a ring over the dial to kind of keep it suspended in the case there. It's super chunky, unapologetically like burly and utilitarian, but it's a cool piece. And compared to the very design focused models that they're best known for and the ones that make up the original core collection, this is just the fully functional side. And for a permanent collection offering, it very much makes sense within their catalog. And I think it's a cool piece.
Good-o. Well, let's decide then. Is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Maybe, hit, maybe, hits and maybes. Okay, Ripley, you've reviewed it, and obviously you've decided it's a hit. Anything to particularly make it stand out as a hit to you?
There's a couple things I would change. I would love to see a solar movement, but obviously you're also then getting into other considerations that may compromise the shock resistance. You can always nitpick about elements of the design, but overall it's not a bad price for a very, no compromises uber rugged sort of tool watch. It's not the prettiest Unimatic model that, exists by any means, but it's not supposed to be. So if you like this sort of design ethos, this is a kind of a cool mix between the sort of industrial Unimatic vibe and something that's a bit more sort of instrument vibe than those very stylized markers that they usually have.
Hey, David, how did you vote and why?
I gave it a maybe. I was going to give it a miss, but then I saw the price and I was like, okay, it gets a pass. I'm not a fan of the proportions, but at this price point, it's a fun exercise, and I can appreciate the desire to make it more durable. So, yeah, a maybe.
Yeah, I think that was my reaction as well. Maybe I'm possibly, ironically, as a Panerai wearer, I'm possibly getting a bit bored of the aesthetic of Unimatic. And like, can we do something a bit different that doesn't look like it's just an evolution from some sort of Seiko 5 back in the day? But then you look at it and you look at the price and you look at the quality, their quality watch, and go, yeah, why not? This is pretty decent. Ariel, what did you think?
I gave it a maybe. It's not really my style design-wise. And I'm not much of a GMT person, but I really like the fact that they tried to incorporate a second time zone in a new way. If this was particularly legible, I would probably give it a hit just because I appreciate doing it differently. I remember when the Rolex Sky Dweller first came out, there was a lot of controversy. Is like, is that a good way of having a GMT? Like, you don't have the extra hand, but it's reading it as a disc, like a better way. And I've reviewed the Sky Dweller and it was okay. I think I actually liked it. So I would have to live with this for a while to be like, is this a better way of doing it? But overall, as someone who is kind of annoyed at the 4-hand dials, I think this is a good step. I mean, really, this is just taking the standard Unimatic theme and making it a little Sky Dwellery. That's really what they did.
A Sky Dweller for 500 notes. Now, Guy, confess you were the one that said we must look at this. I didn't know whether that was because you hated it or because you loved it.
Oh, no, I 100% love it. I think it's brilliant. I love... It's interesting what you said about, it's the same old Unimatic and it all looks the same, but you can say that about Rolex and they're kind of doing all right. And I think it's quite good that...
and Rick, Panerai.
There's a thing... Well, Panerai, yeah.
Yeah, like
exactly.
Mr. Panerai, yeah.
Exactly, that's what I said. I'm not saying it's a justifiable opinion, but it's just an opinion.
I think there's a few, from a brand perspective, if you can get your watch to be identifiable at a few meters without being able to read the logo, that's a massive success. And I think Unimatic are one of the few people that have actually done that at this price point and have stayed faithful to it. I love, is it technically a jump hour? I don't know if that's technically a jump hour, but to have that as a GMT, I think it's brilliant. And I think it's much better to have a subtle GMT like that it kind of doesn't get in the way of every day. I love this. I mean, I prefer the one with the dive bezel. I'm going to say that, but I really like it. I really like what Unimatic are doing. And I think they've got a style and they're sticking to it. And it's a good style. If you like that aesthetic, it's a good style. And it's kind of unashamedly their style. Even down to just sticking the logo at the bottom of the dial instead of where everyone else has it. I love it. Well done, them.
Good stuff. Alan, how'd you vote?
I voted a hit. I love Unimatic. I love what they do. Still don't own one. This one spoke to me. It does seem like a 12 in a dozen for all the Unimatics. I think it's interesting indeed what they did with the GMT. I do like GMTs. And for that 450, it comes into the bracket another Moon Swatch, another Blancpain watch, or if I work out, I'll wear my G-Shocks or my Sequined watch, and that will fall
or
into
a D-Trash watch at the same price.
Pardon?
Or a D-Trash watch at the same price.
I have to admit, Guy, I've never seen a D-Trash watch. Would love to review it. So maybe let's
We can
review
sort
one
that.
let's review one on HMM, but I want to physically review it. But yeah, it was a hit for me, and it might become the first Unimatic. You never know. I think I prefer this over their Seiko versions, Seiko calibered versions.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Right. Next up is, let's go here. Omega Paris 2024 Bronze Gold Edition watch. This is an article from Celine. You can tune into the show live on YouTube or later in the week on aBlogtoWatch's YouTube channel. It's an old-fashioned looking Omega, just what you wanted for Paris 2024. There is some gold, there's some bronze. I assume there's some silver in there as well, in order to try and complete the set. I would be interested to know what the proportion of gold, silver, and bronze is, and the extent to which this is more bronze than it is gold. It's quite a pretty watch. It's old-fashioned. Let's give it a bit of a vote. So, on the count of 3, is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Miss, maybes. It's maybes and misses.
Oh boy.
Okay, it's a miss for me because
$12,000.
Just why?
It's funny because we all agree it's not a bad looking watch. Yet none of us want it.
Yeah. If they hadn't actually released this for Paris, it probably would have been like, oh, that's quite interesting from Omega. But it's the whole tie-in that's like, oh, come on. Stop just trying to...
It's also double the price it should be. There's that too.
That's true.
This
Ripley,
is literally like, when you look at the price, it's literally double. It's like the marketing guy's like, okay, we're going to make great money at $6,000. And then they're like, how about 12? Oh, genius.
Got to pay for those freebies we have to give away at the Olympics somehow. Ripley, how'd you vote?
I said maybe. I mean, we're always saying, oh, the Olympics watches Omega needs to do something that isn't just like a Seamaster or a Speedmaster. Do something different. They did do something different. I kind of like that it uses all 3 metals. We've got a bronze gold case, which is 9-karat gold, but it has bronze in it. You got a silver dial. You've got some little gold pieces in the form of the Sedna gold on the hands. That's poetic-ish. But I mean, it's not a bad looking watch. It's different than other Omega Olympic watches. And when you think about the Olympics, you think about like white and bright colors and the Olympic rings and like not things that are particularly pretty and tasteful. And I think this is actually a pretty good looking watch. And again, like you said, if without the branding, we'd all be like, oh, that's actually pretty good looking. Well, I mean, they wasn't like they weren't going to do a Paris 2020 watch, and there very well might be more to come still. And
you could get your ass there.
Yeah, so like let's be real. If this was just some like white and blue Seamaster, we'd all be like, oh, again? This is different. So I got to give it to them for that. I don't like it enough.
Doesn't it just really make you want a Raymond Vial?
Oh God!
It
does. I knew that dial looked familiar.
It's the official. It's the Omega official timekeeper thing. You can't keep time for anything sporting on this watch.
Curling.
Like, it can't be done. Like, I mean,
you can try.
You can try, but you would fail. I just...
Does a sector dial mean nothing to you, Rick?
Is curling a time sport? Maybe this is for a sport that isn't time sensitive, like diving or pink. I don't know. Yeah, something that isn't timed. They're the timekeeper, but I mean, they're...
That's none of the things.
Oh, dear me. Anyway, right. David, what did you reckon?
I said maybe. It's not an offensively bad watch, other than the pricing and the. Well, actually, it's offensive. It's quite expensive, and it's like 9K gold, And to call something bronze gold is so backwards to me. It's really weird. I mean, yeah, 6K I can swallow a bit of bronze with my gold, but not for 12.
I feel like a gold plated watch probably has more gold. That's all I'm saying.
Almost.
Yeah.
Ariel.
Oh, I said miss because I just expect a different type of thing. I mean, the problem is make it a bronze watch. They haven't had like a lower priced dress watch. I remember that for years, like the Tresor and the DeVille and all this stuff. I don't even remember all of the names, but there was like all these basic Omega dress watches that were cheap. They were like the entry level priced ones, and they were decent. And it was like a cool thing from the brand. You were like, you got excited about maybe having a need for one of their dress watches one day. I get none of that from here. I just get the same, like, Omega's pulling out the design from the museum like they've done a bazillion other times. I mean, this feels about as phoned in as you could get with modern day high pricing and almost no soul. And so if they want to have like a poetic story to justify that price point in the design, it literally just feels like an amalgamation of the Omega, museum pieces. It just, there's not we're all trying to get emotionally attached to this watch, and despite our best efforts, we can't.
I mean, the more you look at it, the less sense it makes. It's a manual winding watch. I mean, surely the whole concept of sport is about movement, and therefore an automatic watch makes sense. It's also 15,000 Gauss resistant. Can anyone think of any Olympic sports that are particularly susceptible to magnetism?
It's after
going through the Paris airport.
Or after you get injured and you need an MRI.
MRI scan. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Maybe that's just what they had in mind. This is for the injured athletes. So if you win, you get gold. If you're second, you get silver. If you're third, you get bronze. And if you fall over, injure yourself, you get given one of these watches on the way to the MRI machine.
And I saw online there's a Seamaster 300 that's like a unit watch for the like special forces security people that are keeping the ground safe. It's so
okay.
So that Omega's doing their duties in all aspects.
I love how now security is a target for theft.
Do you think that with all the issues they're having with pollution and trash over there, Guy, that it should really be a D-Trash watch that's sponsoring the Olympics? There you go. There's my segue for you. How'd you feel?
I don't. It's a great segue. I don't think we're going to be beating off Omega's budgets to get the Olympic timing. I gave this one a miss, though. I think this one's I feel like they're going to give you get gifted a Speedmaster if you're important at the Olympics, and if you're less important, you get gifted this one because it costs them a bit less. And I like the Speedmaster that they've done for it. I think it looks gorgeous, but it's got nothing to do with the Olympics. Whereas they did a Speedmaster a few years ago, or a few Olympics ago, that actually the chronograph was the Olympic rings. And it was quite clever, and it looked like a special edition Olympic watch.
Those were cool.
They were cool. I thought they were really cool because it was an Olympics watch. Whereas, even on the new one, which I think looks gorgeous, the new Speedmaster, it's like, who uses a pulsometer and it's got a telemeter on it to, see how far you're away from people clapping. They should just Olympic-y them, make them so people go, that's the Olympics watch. It's not hard.
There's Guy, the marketing man, finally coming out. Let's just make them more Olympic.
Look,
it's not. I mean,
sort of about 10 years ago, at least, I think in various articles, we joked around about the fact that at some point, Omega was going to run out of ideas for the Olympics. Because every time there's Olympics, there's like 10 watches that came out, and they tried to do all the themes. They already went through the process of incorporating the rings on the dial, as Guy said. They've done every single type of color combination. They've, been inspired by the place. Omega literally just ran out. They refused to hire any more creative people. That's abundantly clear. And they just ran out of ideas. I mean, I think next time
the guy that put the rocket on the little rocket on the Speedmaster.
Oh God!
They could have got.
They could have hired that guy. I agree.
Hire that guy.
Put a little Eiffel Tower as the hand. Yeah. Come on,
Eiffel Tower subdials. Put Paris 2024.
Yeah.
What we needed was more cheese.
So we just need the second collaboration version where we can have like a spinning baguette and like have a just
the
On
thing is,
that, I've got to say, if Secon get a hold of this, stuck a baguette on it and a gold medal going
if
around,
Omega can't be
I love that.
inspired by Paris for watch design, they failed.
That is
But
true.
it says
That's true.
Paris on it. I mean, they had a bunch of
Does
these
it
watches
say
in
Paris
stock,
on
and they
it?
just changed the case back. They were like, "Oh, we have
Just
all
yeah,
these
the back
on
of it.
sold
Case back.
watches."
Sorry, it needs to be on the dial. They need something on the dial. Okay, that's the
Like some of
That's
the
it.
world's
Changing the
most
case
famous
back.
brands are either in or originally from Paris, and Omega phoned this in.
Oh yeah.
I think that's actually the best reflection in this. But Alon, you have one more reflection. What did you vote?
Who remembers this?
Yeah, we were all talking about
Yeah.
that.
That's the one. That's great.
You know that actually it's a 5 counter chrono, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little
That's
tiny one in the
amazing.
center. It was
Crazy
like-
they don't use this. Anyways, I voted a miss because I really don't like the bronze gold. Initially, when it came out, I thought, "Oh, cool! They innovated. How would it work?" 9K isn't gold. I mean, the percentage it's less than half gold, so you can't call it gold. In the UK, I think you're allowed to sell 9K. In the Netherlands, you're not allowed to sell 9K gold even,
That's
or
hilarious.
even use the word gold anywhere related to 9K.
a place of decency, clearly.
How very Dutch of
Good
you.
for you.
I bought some from Omega. I did not sell any from Omega. I don't know why they made it. On this model, I love the layout, dial, museum piece or not. Do you guys remember the London edition? Was also similar styled Durst Seamaster vintagey 1940 50s.
A similar looking Omega? You don't say.
Yeah, from the museum. And
Never catch on.
but what I would have done, if you already have the bronze gold, make a trio, make one from sterling silver, make a bronze one, and make a real gold one. But all 3 Olympic watches are, in my humble opinion, hardcore.
Can we go back to why they have the bronze gold, and can we separate the gold out of the bronze gold so we can just have gold and bronze again? And that seemed to work really well before. Yeah, the bronze
That's
was
why
pretty
I'm
inexpensive.
with
The gold
you.
was expensive and nice. Yeah.
I think you'd be
Yeah.
shocked at how little gold came out of it would be the problem with that
Well, it'd be
theory.
37.5. So what, 18 karat, 75%. This is literally half of that. So yeah, like, yeah, this is like a little over a third of gold. This isn't that much gold, but it's
No,
not
it's not a
nothing,
lot of
but
gold,
it's not
no.
nothing, so like, put that towards a Speedmaster bezel or something like that.
Right. Well, next up, and finally for today, we'll go with this. And rather than being hit miss, maybe I think we should write on the back of the cards you use whether this is just we've had enough already, or stop it, or something. Ripley, new release Omega Swatch, Moon Swatch, Mission to the Super Blue Moon Phase Watch. Is that actually what it's called?
I swear to
One,
God, I
two,
just
other-
copied and pasted it. I wouldn't come up with this. No amount of SEO value is worth the mental obstacle that would take to that. The whole name is the Omega X Watch Moon Swatch, Mission to the Super Blue Moon Phase.
Moon Phase Watch.
Yes, we
It's-
put
it
Super
rhymes.
Blue Moon Phase Swatch Moon Swatch. Yes, it's the longest title of an object.
I think you can rhyme that. Omega X Swatch, Moon Swatch, Mission to the Super Blue Moon Phase Watch, or something. Somebody needs to be rapping about
Dr.
this.
Seuss. Just look at the colors.
That's it. It's Dr. Seuss. It's a
In
Dr.
what
Seuss
language does Mission to the Super Blue mean anything?
watch.
Mission to the
it's just-
Super Blue Moon Phase.
Yeah.
What is a Super
it's-
Blue?
It's a weirdo one.
It's what
So-
that machine gives you if you ever at the Rolex boutique if you stick something else in it.
Yeah. I mean, this watch looks like the color of a terrible bruise.
Terrible.
I like this one. In my opinion, this is the
Is that
best
what a Super
looking.
Blue is?
This is
Super
probably
Blues.
the best looking moon phase model. It's the only one that isn't like monochromatic with a cartoon dog.
Which is always important. Right, hit miss, maybe. Stop it now, forever, Swatch. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's worth checking
I'm going
it out.
for it.
Oh, come on, right? Ripley, justify yourself.
Well, Swatch Group likes money, and this was going to make them money.
And aren't making enough of it.
So
Since when is that important to us?
So that was the justification for why everyone's like, why they do that. Okay, why they like money. Here's why I think it's kind of cool. We got a Pulsations bezel. Cool little nod to some vintage stuff. You got the blue bioceramic case, which they had the issue with the Neptune one bleeding onto people's wrists, and the Neptune one was the hard one to get. Now you can get your blue Speedmaster again. It's got the dial of like the CK2998, like vintage style blue Panda one. So you got a little bit of a nod there. Objectively speaking, it's a decent looking moon swatch. Are we super sick of them because they've made 1 billion of them? But like, I think the thing to remember is we can't really look at these like regular watches. This is Swatch, the company that pioneered the concept of like switching out, getting a new watch each season, having these be like little playful accessories that you can switch in with your wardrobe. So like more is more as far as what these things are trying to do. This one's got some cool vintage and contemporary callbacks to other stuff they've been doing. It's not a bad looking watch. $310 for a bioceramic. It's not plastic, it's bioceramic, which is plastic, but it's not exactly a value proposition, but compared to the other moon swatches, I think it's one of the more interesting ones.
Okay, this is a miss because this is the watch they should have been using for Paris. You're talking about Swatch, a company known for producing watches that are city related. You're talking about Omega, who sponsor the Olympics. Why is there not a moon swatchy whatever for the Paris Olympics? It's the most... I produce a gazillion of them with Olympic rings, nice and colourful, all the rest of it, and sell one of these to basically everyone that goes to the Olympic Games if you price them right. But instead, they focus on a moon concept watch that they're only going to sell for 23 days or whatever it is. Well, this is just stupid. This is just bad. If they wanted to make money, if making money was what they're good at, and they're only occasionally good at making money, then this should have been a release for the Paris Olympics in the style watch. Rant over, David.
Yeah, I will second everything you've said. All I will add is that I really don't like products that tell me what to do, especially plastic watches. Dream big, explore the universe, fly higher. Like, don't leave, laugh, love.
Love.
No, I just don't tell me. It's a product. Like, why? So I don't get it. I checked this Cardiff Booker I'm wearing in case it had a pulsation bezel or whatever. It doesn't. But if it did, it would be reading 240 right now. That's all I have to say.
I think we should be steadily building our ideal watch. So the last show, we decided that we wanted a perpetual calendar that was set to your birthday so that it changed. Now I think what we need on the back of that watch is live, laugh, love. So we've now got the back of the watch designed correctly.
Dream big.
We now know what the complication is.
I feel like I need to make a confession that on the back of a D-Trash watch it says "Have fun, do good."
Well, that's okay.
I need to take that off if David ever gets one.
Yeah,
it's
Remo for some reason. I don't know why.
Can you just make that like cat on the tree and it's just like hang in there or something like that? And have that be the case.
I think it's a silly watch because of the motivational statements, because they're unachievable. You know what I mean? They're not like things like be nice to your friends. They're explore the universe. How? What do you want me to do exactly to achieve that goal? Should I get into my spaceship? Like, what do I do to do that? Like, you're annoying me, Swatch. I can't fulfill your requests.
I can't remember what the film was, but there was a film that the advert for it, the trailer for it, featured a particular actress. And then when they released the film, her part had been cut out of it. So a couple of people sued the movie studio. Obviously, this was in America. Sued the movie studio because they went to see the film. She wasn't in it. So they sued them for like $1 gazillion for mis-selling the film.
That was a good case.
The woman that was in the trailer. It was a great case. Do you think that if we bought this watch, we could sue Omega? Because we have not flown higher. We have not dreamed big or explored the universe.
Well, my question
this is a mis-selling.
Where can I see all these different colored moons, right? At some point, they're going to run out of colors, right? It's like they're going to go through every Pantone, moon, but they're going to run out sooner than later. So it's like they're through so many of the colors so far, and they'll make them up at this point. Green moon, brown moon. They'll just come up with whatever colors they want.
They will run
eventually,
They will run out of colors when Grand Seiko runs out of majestic cityscapes outside of Mount Iwate. If Grand Seiko's still going with ideas, we have not even tipped the iceberg
but in Japan at least they have different types of things like from nature. Omega's, it's just the moon, right?
That's true. We all have the same moon. That is also true.
I gave it a maybe because I'm happy that people are being familiarized with the moon phase. If you are a mainstream person that just lives around your life, you will probably never see an analog moon phase indicator anywhere. Like, you could easily get through life and miss it. And as Rick said, it's his favorite complication. It's a cool thing. So being able to get people into that. Did you say like moon phase?
No, he likes the equation of time.
No.
Oh, yeah. Who likes moon phases? Somebody likes moon phases. Sorry, somebody. Anyways, to that person that likes moon phases, don't you want more young kids to talk about moon phases with? Aren't you annoyed to meet some young buck of a watch lover and he just doesn't understand about the moon and its phases? This helps. Now someone who's getting into watches will understand that. So that's where the maybe is, because Swatch Group has plenty of other more expensive moon phase watches. I think Blanc Pond just came out with a really expensive one a few days ago.
Cool. Good stuff. Guy?
I gave it a miss. And I know what Ripley said, but I don't. Why would you put the pulsometer on it? That annoys me.
Well, it's for David. It's for us to know how upset David is when he's looking over the marketing materials.
It's a lifesaver.
No scale makes sense. That's why people have tried to put like pasta timers, because none of these scales are useful.
No, but at least stay true to what the Speedmaster is. Like, don't randomly put this on the no one understands anyway. True. B, no one knows how to use. At least the tachymeter, like, people vaguely understand a little bit how they work.
Do you want more messaging on the bezel? Like, simple things like take out the trash or something. That's. But
also, it's like what? But if you're gonna change it, so like the tachymeter on the Speedmaster is kind of the iconic bit of it, and it's it was originally to time racing, etc., etc. If you're gonna change it, like, make it to, like, if it was the Heart Moon or something, it was something
Don't
related
give them ideas,
to what,
for goodness sake.
like, why they were going to change it. Like, make it make sense. Don't just randomly change it. And they should have done, like the picture that Alon just held up of the 5 Rings Olympics. They could have done a moon swatch version of that for the Olympics. That would
absolutely. I think we've all agreed that the fact that there isn't an Olympics version of the Omega Slime swatch, or like that, just makes no sense.
Mission to Paris.
But they've also got some. But what I mean is they've got some really like obvious ones that they could do. Not even like do an Olympic one. Like, do that Olympic one as a swatch. It's like,
we joked about the swatch Olympic swatches and how they also had nothing to do with Paris or the Olympics.
Yeah.
Alan, how did you vote?
I voted a miss with the request to add a note if they should stop or not. I don't have much to add to everything you guys have said. I've been laughing here with my mic muted. Maybe 2 final thoughts. I sent a WhatsApp message while I'm listening to you guys to my buddy, my neighbor, 12 years old, also sneakerhead. So he and I bond over sneakers. Obviously, he got on the Moon Swatch hype bandwagon. He did not like the Blanc Pince. He obviously wanted the blue one because that was the most difficult one to get. So I asked him, do you want this one? He's like, no. Should Swatch stop making them? His answer is yes. So maybe that's the voices Swatch needs to listen to, not to us old geezers geeking out and nerding out over small details, if there's a pulsation on it or not. They really don't give an F. But second thought also, I've analyzed the half-year figures for the Swatch Group because I do some consultancy. So with one investment firm, we dug very deep. And what struck me as odd, it's now the third time, they keep on emphasizing how important the moon swatch is, referring back to Ripley's comment about they like money. So do I. But if you have a long-term scope, you always need to look at the effect of the drugs you're taking to your health system. And they're so depending on the successes of the moon swatch. I'm like, shouldn't you be making money with your regular core collections? And I'm talking all the levels of the pyramid, from Flick Flack up to Breguet and Blancpain. So I'm actually very worried for the Swatch Group.
Yeah. Well,
you're not the only one, Alon.
Well, on that note, we'll all go away and think about just how worried we are about the Swatch Group. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, including the dog barking in the background, whoever dog man is. That's your dog.
Me.
Well,
sorry,
goodbye from us, and goodbye from the dog. And yes, stop it, Swatch Group. Thank you all for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.